everybody, you might not see me, but my name is Ashia and I'm the content marketer here at Plainsaver. And today I am joined with Archana from Snoop, the money management app. If you wanted to give a brief little introduction of yourself.
Yeah, sure. Hi everyone, lovely to be here. Thank you for having me. So I'm Archana, I work at Snoop, and Snoop is a money management app, as you said. It allows you to connect your bank accounts and your savings and your credit cards to the app, and then we help you kind of make sense of your money by showing you where you're spending and where you might be able to save in terms of your kind of bills and things.
Yeah.
But yeah, great to be here.
Yeah, thank you for coming. So we'll be doing this webinar mainly about budgeting, but there'll also be a few other things in there based on your questions, and we'll have some time at the end as well for any live questions that you have. We'll get Archana to answer them for you. But we're going to start with a little icebreaker. I want to see if anyone's active in the chat, if you guys are engaged. We'll do a little icebreaker of a quick fire round. This is mainly for you, but I would love if you could all get involved in the chat as well. Yeah? So, I'm going to ask you, you've got 5 questions here, you're going to have a this or that.
Okay.
Basically. It's going to determine a little bit of your spending habits. We'll see.
Oh no, scared.
Yeah. So, quick fire round. First question. Coffee at home or a cafe splurge?
Ooh, good one. I'd say cafe splurge.
Cafe splurge.
Yeah, a couple of times a week probably.
Which one's your go-to?
I like a latte at my local neighbourhood place.
Support independent businesses.
Absolutely.
Love it. So what would anyone else in the chat? Oh, there's someone messaging here. You're a coffee at home or a cafe splurge kind of person? Yeah, cafe.
Yes, thank you, Monica.
Yes, yeah. Exactly, you've got to treat yourself to something.
I think so.
Or home for sure.
Yeah.
You're
I bet
the
they've got a
smart
nice
one.
coffee machine. Though.
Yeah. home. Yeah, they've got like an espresso coffee machines, definitely.
Some good money savers.
Yeah. So what's the best freebie you've ever scored?
Ooh, the best freebie. I love a freebie. Who doesn't love a freebie? I'd say the best one I've ever had is I was going on holiday with my mum and dad, and the airline had overbooked the flight, so they actually bumped us, put us on another flight, and upgraded us.
Oh, that is
and
good.
Gave us some money. I think it's quite rare, and this was about 25
yeah,
years ago. So it was a long time ago, but yeah. That was pretty cool.
That is very good.
That was pretty cool.
I don't think I've got anything that's that good. I'm thinking like when you're in Tesco's and they give you the little testers.
Yes, I have had lots of those.
Yeah, like a little salsa tester in Tesco's.
Absolutely.
Oh, won a smart TV and a
Oh
raffle.
wow, amazing.
Wow.
Well done, Rashida.
Yeah. So where was that? Can you leave the giveaway link in the chat? Also, we've got someone else's typing. My workplace. After my work did that. Won a basket at Xmas Fair raffle. Yeah, that's good.
Oh, lovely.
Yeah, it's always nice. And Ashraf's typing. What was in it? We all want to know what was in it. Let's give you another one then. So, save for retirement or splurge on travel now? That is a bit of a hard one, actually.
That's tricky.
Yeah.
And I'm going to give a really boring answer and say a little bit of both. I think it's good to save for retirement, definitely, but you've got to live life a little bit. So a little bit of money for travel, a little bit.
Yeah, a little bit of both. It's definitely a balance, no?
Yeah, absolutely.
Oh, this one. Oh, public transport, drive, or walk or cycle, whichever is yours.
I can drive, but I live in London, so tend to be the tube or walking.
Tube or walking. So
Public
this was
transport,
splurge on travel now, there you go.
Absolutely.
I'll live your life. And this one, I found this one really hard actually. Meal deal or a packed lunch?
Oh, I'd say I aspire to a packed lunch.
Yeah.
That's what I want to do.
Don't we all?
But yes, probably more often a meal deal. But when I can, I'll bring in leftovers.
I mean, it would have been a meal deal hands down when it was £3, but now it's £3.50.
Inflation.
Yeah, do you know what I mean? Packed lunch, aspiration. Yeah, packed lunch. You guys are better than me, that's good. Packed lunch for the first half of the week, and then meal deal when I can't be bothered.
Sounds sensible.
Yeah, indeed. Got to go with the flow. Let's get to know a little about you. So thank you guys for getting involved in that icebreaker. We're going to ask you some questions about yourself then.
Sure.
But please feel free as well to answer in the chat. I'd love to know what you guys are thinking and what you guys do as well with your money. So first question we have for you is, what's the best piece of financial advice you've ever received and who gave it to you?
So I think the best piece of financial advice I ever had was probably in my 20s. So I just sort of started working, and I was educated about pensions. So this was before auto-enrolment for pensions, before your employer had to kind of make sure that you had a pension, and I was just educated about how important it is to start early, because obviously compound interest, which is when you earn interest on top of the interest, means that anything that you invest early on, really has a chance to kind of grow.
Yeah.
And I think it's quite hard when you're in your 20s to kind of think about your future self. You're kind of very much in the now, but it was a really good life lesson that I had. And it was actually Martin Lewis that gave it to me. So
Martin Lewis himself.
So I used to work at Money Saving Expert for many years, and that was my first job out of uni. So
that would teach you a lot.
It taught me a lot. Yes. Yeah, definitely. So that was great.
Yeah. Anyone else got any good pieces of financial advice they've had from family, friends? I'll take the no typing in the chat. Save. Be wary of credit cards. Don't buy if you don't need it.
Yeah.
From my mum. Yes, that is a very good piece of advice. Saving is very important. So let's go to the next question. If you had to sum up your personal money philosophy in a sentence, what would it be? Only 200 characters.
That's really hard to sum it up in one sentence. I think it would be something around sort of living for today, saving for tomorrow, but maybe that's a bit contradictory. But I think my parents were always very frugal out of necessity, so it kind of taught me that and kind of how to money save. I lost my dad when he was only kind of 65, so I think when that happens, you also kind of have an idea that actually life is short and you actually want to make the most of it. So I think, yes, I'm quite balanced in my approach. Definitely like living in the moment, but also like stashing away money in my pension. So a bit of both.
That's good. Very smart. Sorry, I had a better word in my head, but it left me in mid-sentence there.
I'll take smart.
Yeah, it was smart. Balance. Yeah. There you go. Tomorrow will take care of itself. True. That is exactly. Oh well.
Yeah, will it though?
Will it take care of itself? Yeah. What's the best money-saving deal you've ever gotten?
So as I mentioned, I do like to travel. So, and again, this was quite some time ago. But in my 20s, when I could, maybe take time off at very short notice, I managed to score a flight to Australia for £300. And it was with a really good airline, and it was such a steal. It was amazing. Went for 2 weeks with a friend and had the best time.
That's awesome.
It was a very, very good deal.
Yeah, definitely. £300 to Australia?
Yeah, I know. Yeah.
Would not happen today.
Possibly not.
Anyone else got any good deals? Money saving deals that they've had? Actually, yes, it's. That is a 5. Okay, what about the next one? What's a quirky or unusual money-saving habit you've come across in your work? Oh, interesting, yeah.
I don't know if this is quirky or unusual, but one that I am really in awe of is people that kind of do yellow sticker shopping. So, when you go to the supermarket at the end of the day, a lot of the time they will kind of yellow sticker reduced items.
That's where I get my dessert for the evening.
It's like a prime time to go for all the different supermarkets when they kind of, you get the most number of kind of reduced things.
Yeah, it can align with when you finish work as well sometimes.
Yeah, which would be the dream.
Yeah.
And there are lots of people that will basically just meal plan around those kind of yellow sticker buys, and kind of stash things in the freezer, and and just really get kind of a very cheap grocery bill, which I think is amazing. Takes a bit of planning, but amazing.
Planning and spontaneity.
Yes. Yes.
Okay, awesome. Any more messages in the chat? Okay, cool. So some topical questions. So now we're going to get into it. Now we're going to talk a bit about budgeting, about savings, and yeah, we'll get the best out of you, I think, from these ones.
Yeah, we'll try.
So let's go into budgeting. What are some of the most common budgeting errors when someone gets into budgeting?
Yeah, it's a really good question. I think the first place to start, or one of the kind of big errors, is kind of not really truly understanding what you're spending and where your money's going. Because I think maybe you might have an idea in your head, but actually the reality might be a little bit different. And I'm going to kind of plug Snoop, but this is where an app like Snoop, comes in handy, because what it does is it kind of automates all of that for you, and really there's no hiding from where you're spending.
Yeah.
You can see exactly how much you're spending in kind of different categories. So I think that's really important.
Can I ask as well, can you budget specific like groups, like how much you want to spend on, for example, going out to eat? Or
Yeah,
do
absolutely. So one of the features we've got on the app is we will kind of help you set up a budget. So we can do it automatically for you. So we'll kind of look at your sort of transactions and go, okay, this is how much you spend on average, so this is kind of what might work. Or you can kind of do it from scratch yourself. But I think having that kind of factual information with all your kind of transactions, I think really helps. So I think that would be the first thing. I think another thing is just making sure that you factor in any annual spends, because it's quite easy to think about budgeting on a monthly basis, but then when you have a kind of annual expense come in, it maybe throws your budget off a little bit.
Or like a birthday.
So
back to
birthday,
school,
Christmas, car insurance.
Oh yeah.
If you kind of, I don't know, if you buy a mobile phone on an annual basis, anything that you spend annually that you might miss, you want to think about those annual spends and make sure you kind of you put them into your kind of monthly budget. And then I think the other one is maybe around kind of being too strict with yourself and like not leaving any room for fun. So I think if you can, just try and factor that in, because I think it makes it much easier kind of to stick to your budget overall.
We like to say, like, create a fun fund.
A fun fund. I love it. Love it.
Fun fund. And spend that when you go out. I love this message. I only have an idea where it's going, but in fact, I never know exactly.
Yeah.
That's why you need Snoop. That's awesome. So basically, how can people stick to a budget? We kind of answered it a little bit, but what are some small habits that people can build when it comes to budgeting?
Good question. So I think one thing to do is maybe to set aside some time every month to kind of review your budget and see how it's going, and just you might need to kind of course correct a little bit or kind of make some adjustments. So you could like link that to your payday maybe. So kind of every payday you just kind of have a look at how the month before's gone, kind of see whether you need to make any changes. I think that's a good one.
Like, don't ignore, always set in time to have a little look.
To have a little look, yeah, exactly. Try, it's easy to sort of bury your head in the sand a little bit. I think another one is just to think about your significant others. So, if you've got a partner, just make sure you're both on board with what you're trying to do with your budget, because it's, you might end up being derailed if one person, isn't kind of on the same page as you.
Yeah, that's a good point indeed, yeah. And it's so kind of talk about budgeting and the importance of having different pots for basically saving your money ahead of time for these big annual events. So for someone who's just starting to create these kind of savings pots, what is the first thing that they should do?
Yeah, so to go back to the kind of point about just making sure you understand your budget, so I think that is a really important thing to do before you start saving. I think have a look and see whether you can cut any costs from budgets, from your budget, and that I'm not talking about kind of cutting things out, but it's painless saving. So can you get a cheaper broadband deal? Have you switched your car insurance or your home insurance recently?
Oh, yeah.
So just kind of trying to think about whether there's any kind of easy savings that you can make. Subscriptions is another really good one. A lot of people are kind of paying for things that they didn't realise, that they've maybe forgotten about, or you're not really using.
And Snoop does highlight that as well, doesn't it?
Yeah,
like
we do, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. And we've had people kind of go, oh, thank you, I was paying for Disney Plus twice and I didn't realise, and I think there was one guy
for the living room, one for the bedroom.
Yeah. There was someone that had been paying for the breakdown cover twice and didn't need to. So it's actually very common. So I think definitely start with that.
Yeah.
I think another really good tip is around automating your savings. So treat savings like you would any other bill. once you understand kind of how much you've got spare to save, how much you're willing to put away, just create a standing order. Transfer that into your kind of savings on payday every month. I think that makes it really easy.
Yeah.
The other thing to say as well, actually, is to think about debt before you're saving. So, if you're paying lots of interest on any debt, it's probably, could be worth thinking about whether you should be paying off that debt first before you start saving.
Well, that's really interesting. So would you say, prioritise the debt, get the debt gone before you go for your savings?
Yeah, I think there are different kind of thoughts about it. So I think if it's costing you a lot of money, more than you would be earning in a savings account, then that's could be the way to go.
So it's worth doing some maths and figuring out.
Yeah. Just having a look at what the interest rate is you're paying. The best savings rates that you can probably get at the moment are around 5%. So if you're paying more. Amazing. If your debt is costing you more than that, then that's something to think about.
That's good. So then how do you motivate yourself to do this? All that, how do you motivate yourself to get started with a budget, with saving? Where does it come from?
Okay, I'm going to ask you how you motivate yourself in a minute. But I think one thing that's worth thinking about is what's your goal in terms of your savings?
Yes.
So, are you saving for a holiday? Are you saving for, maybe some home renovations? Are you kind of saving for your kids? Just really think about what the focus is for your savings. So I think that helps it make it a bit more real.
Yeah.
And maybe think about, how you might feel when you've achieved that goal. So, might be how relaxed and rejuvenated you feel on holiday, or the fact that you might be able to have family round when you've kind of done your home renovation. So really think about that, and I think that kind of gives you something to kind of focus on.
Yeah, and I can say as well, for me, when you've budgeted from that fun and you're spending money and you're going out, you feel you have more fun because you know that what you were spending, you've budgeted for.
Yeah.
You've got no worries when it comes to money when you're out, which is really good.
Yeah, absolutely. And then the other one that I would go back to is the tip that I said about automating your savings. So I think if you do that, then motivation is less of a less of a worry.
And most people come from your payroll savings as well, so you can just
exactly. Yeah. If you do it kind of on payday, automate it, treat it like a bill, then motivation is less of a factor.
That's a good point. So this is a big thing. So many people feel that they can't afford to save or can't afford to budget. So what would you say to someone in that position?
Yeah, I think it's a really tricky one. I think if you are just about getting by in your budget, I think that's okay. That there might be times in your life when that is just the case, and I think you just have to kind of be okay with that. The other thing to say is there is no minimum or maximum amount you could be saving. Even if you could put kind of £5 or £10 away a month, that is a really good place to start, and I think it gives you that, it starts to give you that kind of savings habit. But I think if you are in that position where budgets are tight, then just don't beat yourself up about it. I think
there's always time to save in the future.
Yeah, absolutely.
This is a big thing at the moment. What are your favourite tips for cutting back on big expenses, things like energy bills and groceries? Maybe not even the big things, the little things as well. What are your big tips?
Yeah, so I think definitely doing kind of a bit of a bills audit is a really good one. Most people can save, probably a couple of £100 even a month if they make sure that they're on the cheapest deal for all their kind of key utilities. So kind of, if you switch to the cheapest broadband deal at the moment, you'd be paying around kind of £22 a month for quite a speedy package. So if you're paying more than that, then it's definitely worth looking for a new deal if you're kind of out of contract. Energy bills is a really interesting one. So obviously we've had a bit of an energy crisis in the last couple of years.
Yes. Those energy companies are having fun at the moment.
Absolutely. And there's a price cap in place, which means that the amount that kind of energy companies can charge is capped at a certain amount per unit. So obviously if you use more, it still means that your bill can go up. But actually we've seen over the last couple of months there have been some new deals that have been coming into the market, so fixed deals, which mean that you can kind of fix the unit cost that you're paying for energy, and actually some of these are cheaper than the price cap. So it's really worth kind of having a look. Go and use one of the comparison sites. We have one on Snoop, but there's lots of big ones. Big ones on Money Supermarket, Cheap Energy Club, MSE. So go and have a look, see what's out there, and see if you can kind of make a saving. And I would just kind of go through all your bills and kind of see where you can save.
Am I wrong in saying is that Snoop, when you're on the app, it gives you like a switch to save?
Yeah,
it does,
absolutely.
doesn't it? So it goes through like what you're spending and gives you some options.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah,
so
very good.
So you can literally use the app to do that yourself.
Yeah,
save
absolutely.
A bit of time there.
Yeah, so broadband, mortgages, that's another big one.
Oh, even like if you switch your current account, right, you might be able to get an extra, that's on there as well, right?
That's a really good tip actually. So lots of current account providers are kind of giving big cash bonuses out to get you to switch to them. It's usually really easy to do that, so they'll do all the kind of switching for you. Doesn't mean your old account will be closed, but they'll move all your kind of direct debits and all that kind of thing. And yeah, some of them are giving up to kind of £175. The First Direct is giving £175 at the moment, so that's a good one. And there are a few others as well.
Yeah, it's really good. You get a little bit extra there for your savings. So that's actually all we had from our questions, but we have some pre-submitted questions from you guys, and we're gonna get into those now. And please, if you have any questions that you want to ask Archana, please put them in the chat now, and we'll go through them at the end of the session. So one of the questions we've had here is, are budgeting apps safe? Is Snoop safe?
Well, I can tell you about how safe our app is, and then I can also kind of give you some tips what to think about if you're kind of using other apps.
Yeah.
So Snoop uses something called open banking technology. So open banking is a government initiative, and the idea behind it really was to banks hold a lot of data about you, about your kind of spending trends and kind of patterns. And open banking was designed, I guess, to kind of democratise that data, to give it back to consumers so that it could help them kind of make better decisions and kind of understand their kind of money habits.
Yeah.
So essentially, kind of the government mandated for the big banks to kind of make this data available. So we kind of connect to that data through open banking connections. It's completely secure. We never see your banking logins. So we just kind of talk to the bank behind the scenes. You can choose, if you want to disconnect from that at any time. It's highly regulated, so we're regulated by the Financial Conduct Authority that all kind of big banks and kind of financial institutions are kind of regulated by, and our security is bank level security. So pretty safe, but everyone has to kind of make their own decision and kind of do their own research. In terms of kind of more broadly, thinking about kind of other apps that you might want to try. So again, definitely look to see whether they're regulated by the FCA. So they'll usually have their kind of FCA number in the footer, their website, so you can check there. But you can also go onto the FCA website and kind of search for companies. Definitely have a look at kind of reviews and what other people are saying. They're not, the be-all and end-all, but it's definitely worth kind of having a look. And have a look at the kind of privacy policy as well, and the kind of T's and C's that you're signing up to make sure that you kind of understand what they're doing with your data and kind of to make sure you're happy with it.
Awesome. I've just realised I actually did miss one question there from this, and I wanted to, so we'll go back to this about the budgeting and savings.
Yeah.
What's your take on the 50-30-20 rule, the budgeting rule?
Yeah.
And would you mind just giving a quick explanation of what it is for people that don't know?
Sure. So the 50-30-20 rule is a kind of, I guess, a budgeting rule of thumb, which suggests that maybe you should be spending kind of 50% of your income on kind of bills and essentials.
Rent, that kind of stuff.
Rent, exactly, utilities. 30% on kind of fun or kind of non-essential spending, and then 20% on saving. So that's the kind of rough rule of thumb.
Yeah. What would you say is? Yeah. What would you say? Is that good?
Yeah, I think it's an interesting one. I think if you're just starting out and you're not sure kind of what you should be looking at, then it can be a kind of handy reference. But I think it's also very generic and very much based on kind of average income. So I think if you're on a lower income, then it can feel quite unattainable. So again, don't beat yourself up if that doesn't kind of fit. 20% can be quite a lot, especially if you're on a lower income. Equally, if you're on a high income, you probably should be saving more than 20%.
Yeah.
But I think as a kind of a useful guide, it's not a bad way to think about it.
Okay, that's good. Do you guys use 50, 30, 20 rules? Have you heard of this before?
Yeah, I'd love to know.
Yeah, we're very interested to see if anyone knows. Heard but don't use. But do you think, just from hearing 50, 30, 20, do you think that's something that could work for you? Yes, definitely. Yeah, it's a great way to start, even if you're getting into budgeting, just having that initial outlook on it, and you can always adjust it if you feel.
Yeah,
just a great way to get started. Yeah. So we had another great question here. What is? I mean, we did touch on it a little bit. The idea of budgeting when you're in debt. What is the best way to budget to get out of debt?
Yeah, good question. So I think the first thing to do, if you haven't done this or you're not aware, is to kind of list out all the debts that you've got and just really understand, what you owe, what the balances are, what the interest rates are that you're paying. So you've got a really clear idea, which sounds really obvious, but I think especially if you're in a tricky situation, then you might not know that, and you might maybe have sort of buried your head a little bit. So I think that's a really good place to start. And then and definitely make sure you're making at least the minimum repayments on those debts that you kind of don't get into any trouble. And then I think the budgeting rules are very similar, to be honest. So first of all, make sure you really understand where you're spending your money, and kind of have a bit of a plan to how you can kind of pay off that debt, really. See if you can make any kind of painless savings, again, through kind of bills switching, and then, use that kind of extra money to kind of, pay off your debt.
Focus on paying debt
Yeah.
and get into the savings
Yeah.
when you're ready for that. So, this is still about debt here. Best order of repayment of credit card debts. High interest versus amount outstanding. Which one makes more sense?
Yeah, so there are two kind of schools of thought about this, about which option you go for, so which you've mentioned there. So one is around sort of prioritising the highest interest debt first. So, having a look again in terms of what interest you're paying on each of those kind of either credit cards or loans, and then essentially prioritising. So make sure you're paying the minimum repayment on all of them, and then if you have any excess money to pay towards your debt, prioritise the one with the highest interest first. So that's one method. The second method is around basically looking at the balances and paying off the smallest balances first. And I guess the difference between those two methods, one saves you more money, so prioritising the highest debt first, which is more highest interest is more cost effective, and should mean that you pay it off faster, because you essentially any kind of money you're saving from paying off that high interest, you then plough back into the next highest interest.
Yes.
The second one is maybe more of a kind of mindset or kind of psychological way of thinking about it, because some people might just feel much more motivated if they can knock off an entire credit card or store card.
When you can cross that off the list.
When you can cross that off the list, yeah. Personally, I like to kind of save as much money as I can, so I think kind of paying off the highest interest is sensible. But essentially you've got to do what means that you're kind of motivated about.
Yes, it's really, but those are the two main ways
to think about it.
Yeah, to think about it. Yes, it's up to you then which one you want to choose, but it's Very good.
Yeah, just one thing to add actually. So I think if anyone is really struggling with debt, so it's really worthwhile kind of speaking to one of the free debt counselling services. So there are a few out there. There's Citizens Advice, there's Step Change, there's Christians Against Poverty, which has no kind of religious element to it when you speak to them, and so they will basically have a one-to-one conversation with you and try and help you work out maybe a repayment plan. So if you are struggling or you're struggling to pay any of your bills, it's really worth talking to one of those free services.
Yeah, definitely. And also, another thing actually that reminds me, you can also look into consolidating, because if they will recommend that for you, they think that's best for you. But if you need to consolidate a high interest loan into a low interest loan, that is something that you guys can do as well. So this one now is not about it. This is about pensions. How do I know if my pension fund will be sufficient? Is there an ideal target? Is it better to have more savings or place any excess into my pensions?
Ooh, yeah, lots of questions.
That one.
Yeah, so just to be clear, I'm not a financial advisor, so it's definitely worth speaking to a financial advisor about pension if you've got kind of complicated situation.
Yeah, little plug there as well for us. We do have anyone who's a Pensacola member at the moment can have a 3-hour session with the financial advisors at Quilter. So if that's something that you need, they will be there to help you as well, and I'll send that link at the end of this as well.
Yeah, so a couple of things to think about, I think, when it comes to pension. So if you were just starting out in terms of your kind of pension, a rough rule of thumb to think about how much you should be contributing is that basically half your age, and that is the percentage that you should be contributing to your pension throughout your working life. So if you...
What do they usually take from your pension?
Or you're testing me out, but if you were 25, you should be contributing kind of 12.5%. Kind of if you start at 40, you need to be doing 20%. So that kind of gives you a rough idea in terms of where you are starting. You mentioned in terms of kind of what employers contribute. So by law, kind of, they have to auto enroll you into a pension. You can opt out of it, but you basically say no to free money from your employer.
Don't do that.
For a free pay rise, and often they'll kind of they'll match. So if you put in a bit more, then they'll match it further. So definitely make sure you're kind of you're maxing out your contributions. And then in terms of kind of understanding how much what good kind of pension pot is, the thing to think about is kind of what quality of life you want to have when you retire, because the answer to how much you should have in your pension pot really will depend on kind of what kind of lifestyle you want to have. So, are you naturally a really frugal person, or do you kind of want to be able to, have the option to kind of take holidays and things like that? That will kind of, dictate kind of how much you should have. So that's definitely something to think about. And I knew this question was coming, so I did a bit of research, and there was a really good Times article that maybe we'll link to in the notes. But they said that kind of another rough rule of thumb is to think about whatever your final salary is when you kind of retire, you want about 2/3 of that coming from your kind of pension income. So if when you retire you're on around £60,000 per year, you want to be kind of getting kind of £40,000 from your pension. And then what you can do is there are lots of really good calculators online where you can kind of plug in some numbers, and it will kind of give you a rough idea of whether you're on target or not for the kind of quality of life you want and your kind of income. So Pension Bee has a really good one. I think Legal and General and maybe Aviva.
This is where you get a pen and paper if you
Again, maybe we'll
link everything in.
Maybe share it. So yeah, those are a few things to kind of think about.
That's really great. Thank you. So this one, kind of goes into the same thing here. What is the best way to save for retirement? I feel like you've already covered that one there.
Yeah, lots of people know this, but the big kind of advantage of pensions is that you get tax relief from the government. So, they want to encourage you to save for your retirement, so you're kind of less reliant on the state. So, they give you tax relief. So, really, it's a great place to start.
Indeed, yeah. Do any of you guys have any questions for me or Archana that you'd just like to ask? Got a bit of time now.
Actually, one other thing to say on pensions while we're kind of just waiting for that. If you're over 50, pension-wise, which is a government service, will give you free pension advice. So, probably be quite generic, but yeah, it's definitely worth kind of checking out if you are over 50.
Oh, awesome. So that was pension-wise. That's really good. No questions. It's super useful. Thank you. Oh, amazing.
Good. That's
great to hear. Yeah. So we're kind of zoomed through that. Actually, it's only 10 past.
Sorry, we're very quick.
Oh, it's amazing. I didn't miss any questions. And see someone type in there. But thank you guys all for coming. I'm glad that was useful for you guys. And what I'll say while you guys are still asking some questions. Oh, I struggle with. Also, I struggle with my credit card because I always max it. I'm wondering if I should just stop it. Then I can just use my money in that.
Yeah, definitely. I think, so hopefully lots of the kind of tips that we've given around kind of looking at your budget might help. So maybe thinking about, are you using your credit card for kind of like non-essential fun money, or are you using it for kind of essentials? And yeah, I mean, if that's an option, you could just, cut it up and kind of try and decide not to use it. But I think, that's... Put
it in ice.
I've heard that one.
Yeah.
But, I'd go back to kind of just having a look at your budget and just making sure you understand, where you're spending.
Oh yeah, I'm worried about my credit score.
Yeah, credit score is a good one. So let me tell you a little bit about credit scores. So I think the first thing to say, so just to explain kind of briefly what a credit score is it's the idea...
While you do that, I'm going to grab a link for Snoop to put in the chat, if you don't mind.
Yeah, sure. So, the idea around the credit score is it kind of tells lenders, how you might behave in terms of, and what kind of borrower that you might be.
Yeah.
And it looks at, how you've spent previously, whether you've made any late payments, things like that. The one thing to say is there is not one single credit score. So there are credit scores that you can get from the credit reference agencies, so like Equifax and Experian. So what they're doing is they are kind of looking at all the data on your credit file and giving you a rough guide to how kind of lenders and banks might view you. So, and there are lots of things that kind of go into...
I've just put a link in the chat for anyone who wants to download Snoop.
Thank you. So, just spending on your credit card, shouldn't, the kinds of things that people will be looking for are late payments, whether you're going over your limit. There is also something called utilization, which kind of will impact your credit score as well. So that is looking at what are the total limits that you have across your credit card, and how much of those kind of balances are you kind of looking at. So if you had £1,000 credit limit across kind of one or two different credit cards, and you are always maxing them out, then yes, that will have an impact on kind of how lenders see you. But the other thing to say is that you only really need a good credit score if you're looking for credit. So mortgages particularly, or potentially some utility deals. So don't worry about it too much unless you are needing to kind of get some of those deals.
Yeah. Was that helpful for you? Notifications from my meetings here. Thanks so much. Glad that was helpful. So, do you know what is current average household debt in the UK on credit cards?
Ooh, that's a tough question.
I know off the top of my head the average personal debt is like 36,000. The
Wow.
average personal debt, yes, it's quite high actually, but I'm not 100%, something around that number. I've got one of my colleagues typing, so they might know the answer to that. High, isn't it? It is, isn't it? Yeah. So if you're debt, and everyone has taken debt, used debt, borrowing can work for you. So it's worth just making sure that you do it in the right way and do it safely.
Yeah, definitely.
Oh, they got way lower than I thought. Oh, on credit cards, they were specifically. Thank you, Ashraf. Average increase by 5.84% in 12 months.
Yeah, that's the cost of living.
Yeah,
Coming in.
yeah. Thank you there, Ashraf. So I've Snoop, I'm still learning how to juggle it. One best thing I got so far is pension B, just in case someone didn't know. You did mention that, no?
Amazing. Yeah. So yes, Pension B is a pension provider, and it also kind of, if you want to consolidate your pensions, then it could be a good place to kind of have a look at. And if you have any questions, you said you're kind of juggling how to use Snoop. If you have any questions, then email it in, because the team are amazing and they'll reply to you really quickly. So it's hello@snoop.app, and they'll help you out if you need any pointers on kind of how to set it up.
Yeah. Thanks, guys. Do you have any more questions for us? Oh, Ashraf. Oh, glad. Oh, way less than I thought. Ignore what I said. Average debt per UK household unsecured consumer debt, 8,000. Thank you very much, Ashraf. So yeah, there you go. So as I said, if you guys are looking for more personal financial advice, we do currently have a partnership with the guys at Quilter, and they are amazing, and they will walk through anything you need, and you have that free hour with them, and if you do need more help, they will point you in the right direction there, and I will link that to you guys in the follow-up email. But if there's no more questions, Archie, thank you very much.
You're very welcome.
That was
You're very
amazing.
welcome.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Lovely to be here. Thanks for
Yeah,
having
it
me.
was very helpful. I learned a lot as well. And thank you guys all for attending. And thank you. Yeah, and that is all. So the next webinar, I need to let you know, is called How to Thrive in 2025. We have someone who is an expert in goal setting and resolutions to come in and do a talk on exactly that. So that will be on January 22nd, and I'll link that to you guys after the webinar, so you guys can join that. But for now, thank you so much for watching, and we will see you next time. Bye, guys.